Shalom. Call Halal, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the head apostles of Great Millstone, who do rule well and teach well with sound doctrine. Shalom to the elders and the elder bishops of Great Millstone as well. Peace, love, salutations, and blessings to all the sincere Akim and Akwath who do subscribe to this truth. A hearty shalom to the men out there on the highways and byways, highways and hedges, preaching and teaching in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and risking their freedom, now more so than ever, especially in these times, making their bodies a living sacrifice out there on the highways and byways, highways and hedges with the testimony of our Lord Yahweh Shai, which is the spirit of prophecy, which allows those men to go into the scriptures and bring out understanding on a high level. And last but not least, a hearty shalom to the men of Allen Camp, New Jersey, NYC, South Carolina, DTA Camp, Philly, Baltimore, Jersey, NYC. First camp I ever heard the truth from, Isaiah 62 verses 6 through 7. Those that make mention of the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, keep not silence. Give him no rest day or night. To Jerusalem as a praise in the earth. So this is Brother Ashamath coming back at you with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. The Lord's will, you'll find this lesson edifying. And with no further ado, let's jump right into it. So we have a situation going on a worldwide scale with the nations starting to hate the whore. Babylon the Great, the most famous place in the Bible, and Babylon the Great is America. To those that are new to the truth, or maybe your first time watching one of these type of videos, Babylon the Great is the most famous place in the Bible. It's referred to as Babylon the Great, daughter of the Chaldeans, Babylon, a mystery Babylon, so on and so forth. And there's a lot of verses, a lot of scriptures, a lot of chapters that go into the judgment of Babylon the Great. Isaiah 13, Revelation 18, Revelation 17, 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, around the 41st verse, somewhere around there, 39 to like 40, 42, give or take. And a lot of other chapters go into the judgment of Babylon the Great. Jeremiah 51, for I will send fanners, we can start off with that. So Jeremiah 51. This is Jeremiah 51:1. Behold, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai. Behold, I will raise up against Babylon, which is America, and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me. And what are they doing right now? They're rising up against the servants and the prophets of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. You have YouTube. It just came out with a new algorithm that says it's going to take down any videos that are recommending prayer, as a solution or as a get around to the CV-19, and that's, him going in a roundabout way to accuse the brethren, because what are we doing? We're prophesying against this man's potion, against this man's everything, man, his rulership, him being in power, his way of life, LGBTQ XYZism, him looking to normalize pedophilia, him looking to push the charagma, him trying to, say that salvation is for all nations. It's for a certain nation of people, and the elect of that nation. And that's the nation of Israel, which is a people before it's a place, which is you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, and Seminole Indians. So then I'm going to read this again from the top. Jeremiah 51:1. Thus said the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Behold, I will raise up against Babylon, and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me, a destroying wind. And what are those destroying winds? Those ICBM missiles. Jeremiah 51:2. And I will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her and empty her land, for in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. And that's what's going to happen to Babylon the Great. It's going to get hit like it with a ton of ICBM missiles. And that's the great judgment of the whore for all the wickedness, murder, robbery, that's been perpetuated in this land. Blood defiles the land. Numbers 35 and 33. And I'm on the boardwalk, so you may hear people behind me riding skateboards, birds, bikes, so on and so forth. And at this beach over here, because of what's going on a worldwide scale as far as Babylon the Great, you have the Coast Guard, And I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see these guys, And of course, in the sky, I don't know if you can see them, you got a few chariots as well. Doesn't do justice on the camera, but glowing barrel-like colors, like what Ezekiel saw in the first chapter. Let's keep it going. Numbers 35 and 33. So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed by the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. And who shed the blood of the saints? The so-called Negros, Latinos, Native Americans. Esau, Edom, the devil, Adawam, which means red. The red man, the real red man, the deceiver, the adversary, Yep, let's get this as well. Jeremiah 51 and 3. And against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow. And where are those archers going to be shooting? ICBM missiles from one end of the earth to the other. I'm going to read it from the top. Jeremiah 51 and 3. And against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow. And against him that lifteth himself up in his brigandine, and spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her hosts. And that's what's going to happen to Babylon the Great. Everyone that's not the elect is going to get burnt up, man, with ICBM missiles. Not at our hands, at the hands of all the nations that are going to hate the whore. Russia, China, who just held joint military exercises, also Iran, other nations like Turkey, all their UN affiliates, their European Union affiliates, So let's read this article right here. Let's skim through it. This happened yesterday, August 14th, Salakia 2021, the year of hastening, the return of Yahweh Bashim Yahshai, as coined by the elder apostle Tahar. So this is from RT News. As Russian and Chinese troops carry out major joint exercises, U.S. efforts to break the bond between Moscow and Beijing now seem doomed. And doomed, pun intended. That's what's going to happen to Babylon the Great at the hands of the Medes, Moab, and all the other nations that are going to hate the whore. Ishmael, and other Edomite nations as well. Let's read this first paragraph. So this is a picture of Russia and China, the Russians, the Medes, Magog and Gog on the left-hand side. And then you got Moab right there on the right-hand side. Let's read it from the top right here. Joint exercises between Russia and China have seen the world's largest nation team up with its most populous one to showcase their military might. As a cooperation between the two nations moves. At last, the rhetoric like it to reality. Hosted in West China's Ningxia Huai autonomous region, the drills, which concluded on Friday, involved a total of 10,000 troops dispatched by both sides, commonly from China's PLA Western Theater Command and from Russia's Eastern Military District. However, as bolstering interoperability and learning to coordinate actions, the maneuvers also took place against the backdrop of deepening Sino-Russian relations. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but pretty much that's it. Let's get this as well. From Russia, The third paragraph. From Russia, the exercises in China are a part of a larger showcase which will continue in drills in Belarus from September 10th through 16th. Approximately 12,800 troops are expected to participate in Zapad 2021. Also in other news, you have, Afghanistan getting punked out by the Taliban, So let's play a video right here that shows that. And you have Russia right now, Slovakia, you have China. It's recognizing the Taliban as the government / leadership of Afghanistan right now, man. Because Afghanistan has been sieged, allegedly by the Taliban, Them niggas and took over the capital and some more shit, man. So China prepared to recognize Taliban if Kabul falls, sources say, undermining. Sources say, Let's play video. Let's see what happened in Kabul today.
You these live and exclusive pictures here from inside the presidential palace. What you are looking at right now is Taliban fighters inside the presidential palace. This is these pictures exclusive on Al Jazeera. We've been watching them for a few moments now, milling around the lush environs
Slovakia
of the presidential palace. We're not sure if they're making an announcement yet, but the camera has been trailing those fighters as they make their way through the halls of the Afghan presidential palace. Wandering up through the building, decked out in its finery. Of course, this after the Afghan president fled the capital. Taliban fighters placing their guns on the desks, sitting behind. We're just going to bring you these.
Straight punking them cats out, man. Taliban is punking the government out. It looks like they have seized the capital from what it looks like. They're in, the head building. People are fleeing, trying to flee, at the airport. We'll show that in a second.
The desk of, we assume that is the desk of the Afghan president. A fairly stunning turnaround of events in Kabul. You started the day certainly with the news that the Taliban fighters were surrounding the city. Now they're inside the presidential palace.
Inside the presidential palace. So let's play what's going on at the airport or just out there in the city. They blasting out there, straight dumping.
That is the evacuation process ongoing, but what we're looking at in terms of helicopters, is that right?
Yeah, what you're looking at, we've just had 2 more helicopters take off from the US Embassy.
So this footage right here is the American troops, coming to the rescue allegedly for the people at the US Embassy.
That is the evacuation process ongoing, but what we're looking at in terms of helicopters, is that right?
Yeah, what you're looking at, we've just had 2 more helicopters take off from the US Embassy. And this is how they're ferrying people back and forward. And then we have, I can see 4 in total.
The Taliban is not the North Vietnamese army. They're not remotely comparable in terms of capability. There's going to be no circumstance where you see people being lifted off the roof of a embassy of the United States from Afghanistan.
It's like it.
It's not at all comfortable.
What do you see right now?
The question now is, where do they go from here? That, the jury is still out. The likelihood there's going to be the Taliban overrunning everything and owning the whole country is highly unlikely.
That is the evacuation.
But what do you see? Exactly that, Search and rescue, basically, So let's go back into these articles. Let me get one last article. And let's go into the scriptures and wrap it on up. So, the United States to boost Afghanistan presence to 6,000 troops as it's taking steps to secure Kabul amid mass evacuation. You know? So, you know, you have China and Russia holding joint military exercises. China is recognizing the Taliban as basically the Afghanistan government. And if you look at Afghanistan, you know, where it's at as far as this location, let's see where it's at. Salakia. Internet's running a little slow. It's in South Asia, you know. Let's look at where it is geographically. Afghanistan, you know. And if you go west, you have the Valley of Yehoshaphat right here, you know. So we'll see how this plays out, you know. But it's looking like, you know, the beginning stages, you know, what's going on in the Donbass, you know, the Donbass area, you know, of eastern Ukraine. You have also the Amalekites, which is the nation of Israel, you know, the people who are occupying our land, you know. What are they doing? They're bombing Palestinians, you know, they're bombing Ishmaelites. And you have certain Arab nations that are getting tired of it, you know, and it's only a matter of time before they pick on the wrong person, you know. Iran, you know, Turkey, those guys are peeping over the fence, like what's going on in the backyard over there, man, you know. Leave them alone, so on and so forth. So we'll see how these situations play out. But we still have to warn and watch, you know. Stand up on our watchtower and watch and give warning. So this is Revelation 11:14. Revelation 11 and 14. Salakia. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And woe means destruction. And that's what's going to come to Babylon the Great, you know. And we're seeing what's looking like to be, you know, the beginning stages of the drama being played out to start World War III, you know. Isaiah the 13th chapter, starting with verse number 3. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for mine anger, even them that rejoice in my in my highness. Slaki, I'm going to read it again from the top. Isaiah 13 and 3. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for mine anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. Slaki. And the sanctified ones are the saints, the servants and the prophets who've been given the mysteries, the ability to open up the scriptures and bring out understanding through what's going on in real life, you know, in real time, through the news, you know, through the trends, through what's going on a worldwide scale, and be able to make it the vision plain upon tables to the believers, man. You know, the sanctified ones, the elect, the house of David, the servants and the prophets. Isaiah 13 and 4. The noise of the multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts, the Lord of armies. If you go into that word hosts, it means the Lord of armies. You know, the Lord of hosts, the Lord of armies. Mustered the hosts of the battle. And that's what's going to happen. You're going to have nations being gathered in the Valley of Yehoshaphat, you know, to battle each other. And in the middle of that battle, man, they're going to stop fighting each other, and they're going to try to fight the Lord Yahushua when he returns, man. You can read about that in the book of 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, you know. And they're going to lose terribly, you know. So let's read this again. Isaiah 13 and 4. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, and mountains as governments, you know, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together in the Valley of Yehoshaphat, which is looking like what's, you know, playing out right now, you know, the beginning stages of that. The Lord of hosts mustereth the hosts of the battle. Let's keep it going. Isaiah 13 and 5. They come from a far country, and that's where these ICBM missiles are going to be launched, you know, from the Eastern Hemisphere over to the Western Hemisphere, from these nations that are going to hate the whore. They come from a far country, from even the end of heaven. And when these ICBMs get launched, they go into the skies at very high altitudes, and they drop down from the heavens, basically. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahshai, and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. And what land is that? Babylon the Great, Mystery Babylon, America, with fire. Isaiah 13:6. How ye, for the day of the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahshai is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. And that's what's going to happen to Babylon the Great, man. It's going to be destroyed with fire, man. And then the chariots are going to come do cleanup, Isaiah 13:7. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt, because people are going to be afraid in that day, Isaiah 13:8. And they shall be afraid, and pangs and sorrow shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. And that's what's going to happen. People's eye sockets are going to melt, Their eyes are going to melt right out of their eye sockets. Their skin's going to burn, And that's a cold and cruel judgment, man. And that's why we're doing our part to the best of our ability to not get that judgment, man. And you have a lot of Israelites who are set to get that judgment, man. 2/3 of our own people singing the wrong song, they're giving the wrong report, mocking the prophecies, mocking the elders, mocking the name, refusing to teach the true breakdowns, They're saying that, we know that, the RFID, potato chip, isn't the MOTB, but we're not going to take it. Well, if you're not going to take it, why won't you teach the true breakdown of it? Which shows that these guys who are in that spirit are just prideful. They're scared to come out of their congregations and teach the real truth and recognize the real truth, or they're just paid off to not teach the real breakdown, man. So, destruction to you, unless you repent, man. Isaiah 13:17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. And the Medes are the Russians, the modern day Medes, Behold, Isaiah 13:17 from the top. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, thou shalt not delight in it. Keep it going. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces. And their bows, they're going to be launching those ICBM missiles, their nuclear launch stations. And they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eye shall not spare children. They're not going to care in that day. They're going to push the red button, man. Isaiah 13:19. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees, excellency shall be as when Yahweh, the Most High, overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And how did Yahweh B'Shem Yahshai destroy Sodom and Gomorrah? With fire and brimstone. And that's what's going to happen in Babylon the Great. The great whore, man. It's going to be as when Yahweh B'Shem Yahshai overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And what was the judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah? It's a salt pillar, man. Isaiah 13:20. And it shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. It's going to be a memorial, man. A burnt memorial. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. And when this happens, simultaneously, the elect are going to be beamed up into those chariots, man. It's going to be one big party up there, man. Then it's going to be the crowning, and then, that's the beginning, of the kingdom of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, a perpetual rulership, in righteousness. Joel 3:9. Slakia. Keeps on happening to me tonight, Slakia. Getting excited. Joel 3:9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Make war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. And that's what's happening as far as the beginning stages of it. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is putting the spirit on the Medes to get in that warlike spirit, that Soviet spirit. Also, he's putting the spirit on China to team up with them, man. Also, he's putting the spirit on these other nations to hate the whore, slowly but surely. Joel 3:10. Beat your plowshares and the swords and your pruning hooks and the spears. And what are plowshares and pruning hooks? Those are farming materials. Afghanistan is not a superpower, but through nuclear might, through the backup, through Russia and China and Iran, who have a plethora of nuclear weapons backing them up, they're a mighty nation, as far as they got the big homies backing them up, Joel 3:10. Beat your plowshares and the swords and your pruning hooks and the spears. And that's talking about these nations who are not mighty, getting in the warlike spirit as well. China, Iran, and Russia, they're turning up their little homies, man. All these other nations that are going to hate the whore as well. Joel 3:10. Beat your plowshares and the swords and your pruning hooks and the spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. And that's what's happening. The weak are saying, I am strong. I'm strong with the help of Iran, Russia, and all these other nations that, have a plethora of nuclear weapons. They got my back, so I am strong. That's what these smaller nations are saying, like Afghanistan, Joel 3:11. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen. And that's what's happening right now. All these nations are heathen, man. They're all heathens who are gathering to hate the whore, a nation of heathens as far as the rulership of the nation of Babylon the Great. Esau, Edom is in rulership, a heathen nation, all the Gawayim, Joel 3:11. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about, thither cause the mighty ones to come down. And these other mighty nations are going to come down and join these guys, in the valley of Yahweh Shaphat. Let's get that. Joel 3:12. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley. And it says Jehoshaphat, but in the Hebrew, the Lashawan Kodash, the pure language, it's pronounced Yahweh Shaphat, which means the valley of the Lord's decision. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai's decision. Joel 3:12. His judgment, that's what he's going to execute on these heathens, judgment. Joel 3:12. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to burn up their armies, man, when his son Yahushua returns with the hosts of heaven, which is the chariots, which is what the world ignorantly refers to as UFOs. And what's happening? So-called UFOs are haunting these naval ships, popping up at nuclear bases, turning on and off the reactors, tormenting Esau, Edom before the time, man, because he has something that's called Space Force, which he plans on fighting the Lord when he returns, man. But all them joints is going to get burnt up, man, Yeah, let's get these other precepts. Let's get Isaiah 9:5. Isaiah 9:5. Isaiah 9:5. For the battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. And why is that word fuel in the Old Testament? What's that talking about? That's talking about the ICBM missiles, man, and it's going to be very, very hot when they touch down and they crash Babylon. They crash the party, man. you know? And this is talking about the old ways of war, you know, with clinking of the swords, you know, in the battlefield, you know, confused noise, you know, men launching those old school arrows like you see in shows like Game of Thrones and like those old medieval movies, you know, even the old time movies that depict, you know, ancient times, you know, before that. I'm gonna read again from the top, Isaiah 9:5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. And that's what you have when you have people on the ground fighting each other with swords. One sticks the other, and then you have their garment rolled in blood. Well, parabolically, that's what's going to be happening to people who get hit by those ICBM missiles, man. They're going to be dead, man. You know, as soon as those missiles touch down, you are toast. Through. Isaiah 9:5, for every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. And how is that going to happen? Well, Esau Edom, he's going to be the demise of his own kingdom, man. Let's get that. Isaiah 54:16, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy. And that waster is Esau Edom. What's he going to do? Destroy his own self with his own creation, you know? I'm going to read it again. Isaiah 54:16, behold, I have created the smith. And that smith is Esau Edom in the form of the Temanites, the Germans, who invented the ICBM missile. And the first version of that being the nuclear bomb. Isaiah 54:16, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth the instrument for his work. What's that instrument? The ICBM missile, baby. You know, the instrument that he created, and it's going to be to his own demise. And who's going to shoot it at him? The Russians, you know, and the other nations that are going to hate the whore. And what does Esau go back to? Edom go back to? It means red. And it also goes back to wasted away is he, wasted away is he. And that's what's going to be his, that's what's going to be his fate. You know, that's a nomen omen, a name prediction. He's going to be wasted away by his own creation. Isaiah 54:16, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy. To destroy who? Himself. Joel 3:13, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, press, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. And the wickedness of these Edomites is great. And what have they been given? The fatness of the earth. The fats overflow. They're overflowing with wealth, you know. They have more, you know, they have an abundance, you know, they have a stockpile, you know, of wealth, generational wealth. And what is it built on? Slavery. On the backs of who? You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. You know, but that's going to be put to an end, and they're going to have to give it all back. Joel 3:13, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. And Esau Edom is also known as the border line of wickedness. Malachi 1:4, you know? The border of wickedness. Like it. Let's just get it, not quote it. Got a little extra time. It's peaceful over here at the beach. Adonai Rathazah, you found this lesson edifying. Lord's will. Yahweh Rathazah, you found this lesson edifying. Let's get Malachi 1:3 as well. Let's get all the meat off the bone. Yep. Let me see. Let's get let's get the whole thing. Yep. 1-4. Slakia. Yep. Malachi 1, starting with 1. I'm going to read down to 4. The burden of the word of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai to Israel by Malachi, who was a prophet. I have loved you, saith the Lord Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai? Yet I love Jacob. And Jacob had 12 sons, the patriarchs, And those 12 sons are the nation of Israel, you know, as far as the progenitors of the nation of Israel, you know, starting with Jacob, back to his father Isaac, back to his father Abraham, so on and so forth. Malachi 1:1 from the top. The burden of the word of the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai to Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? Saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Yet I love Jacob. Malachi 1:3. And I hated Esau and his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai hates, and he hates a certain nation of people. And that certain nation of people has a judgment coming for them, man. Obadiah 1:15, Obadiah 1:10, and Obadiah 1:18 eventually. You know, go read that, you know, if you haven't, or if you don't have the understanding. Or if you have questions, you can ask on the comment board. You know, if the Spirit allows, I can do a lesson on it. Malachi 1:4, whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. They shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord had indignation forever. Just to add clarification, you know, on what this Joel 3:13 is talking about, you know, as far as the nation that has the wickedness, you know, and their wickedness is great, you know, because the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Job 9:24. And what are they doing? Ruling the earth in wickedness with all their, you know, their allies, you know, their alibis, their, forgetting the word, it's skipping my mind. Their allies, put it like that, you know, their co-conspirators, you know, as well, who are reigning with the beast for an hour. I'm gonna read this again, Joel 3:13. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come get you down, for the press is full. Their fats overflow. Their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, Yahweh Shaphat. For the day of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, is near in the valley of decision. That's what we see him playing out, the beginning stages of it. The day of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai is near all the heathen, you know, who are putting together, you know, the beginning stages of World War III. It's right in front of you. You can see it if you have the eye salve. I'm going to close on that with Revelation 17:15 and 16. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And that's what you have in America, a melting pot of peoples, multitudes of them, nations and tongues, you know. That's what you have, and it sits on many waters. What you were looking at right in front of you, just put the camera on photo mode, you know, filming mode. What you have right in front of you is the Pacific Ocean, right in front of you, you know, and you have the military in the background, you know, guarding it because of what's going on. Looks like the Navy right there out at sea, you know. But that's the Pacific Ocean you have right in front of you. To the east, you have the Atlantic Ocean. To the south, you have the Gulf of Mexico. And on the north side, you also have waters in the form of the Great Lakes. You know, Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, you know, the lakes that are around Michigan, northern Michigan, northern Illinois, and northern New York, you know, that separate America from Canada. You know, the whore that sitteth on many waters, north, east, south, and west. So let's get this again, Revelation 17:15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And this is talking about Babylon the Great, you know, that sits on many waters. Let's read this again. And upon her forehead was written, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And that's what America is, the mother of harlots, you know, and abominations on the earth. All they push is things that are contrary to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, things that are contrary to the scriptures, man. pork, bacon, you know, shrimp, crab, lobster, defiling your temple, women ruling over men, you know, just completely backwards, man, you know, LGBTQ XYZ nastyism, pushing pedophilia, you know, on young children. They have something called the North American Man Boy Lover Association, who is trying to normalize pedophilia and humping 4 to 5 year old boys. And they're yet to be under investigation. You know, that's domestic terrorism. You know, that's, you know, defiling young men, you know, and looking to legalize it. But they're yet to be under investigation. But somehow, guys who are putting out videos like I'm putting out, we're labeled as the terrorists. That's how backwards this place is, man. You know, let's get that as well. Isaiah 5:20. Isaiah 5:20. Let's go back to the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, and close on out. Isaiah 5:20. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and put light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. And woe means destruction. Destruction unto them that call evil good and good evil. And that's all they do in Babylon the Great. You know, which is America. Let's read this again. Revelation 17:15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, which you have in Babylon the Great. And it also sits on many waters as far as bodies of water that surround this nation, north, south, east, and west. Revelation 17:16 to close on out. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And that's going to be the judgment of Babylon the Great, America, man, for all the wickedness that's pushed in this nation, you know, for the murder, rape, robbery that's been done to our people, man, you know, for calling us black. That's misinformation. There's no such thing as black. You know, we're different shades of brown. You know, black means evil. And who are the real evil ones? You Edomites, man. You know, there's no such thing as white either. There's no such thing as Asian, East Indian. There's 18 nations of people, and those 18 nations of people are still here. So let's read this again and close on out. And Ottawa and Rathazah, Lord's will, you found this lesson edifying. Revelation 17:16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And that's what America is going to be. It's going to be a desolate land, you know. Precept just came to mind. Let me see. See if I can find it. See if I can find it. Oh yeah, wow, it's right in my face. Salakia. Let's get from the top. Revelation 18:1. And after these I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lighted with all his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. And that's what America, Babylon the Great, is going to be. You know, a desolate, burnt up pillar, salt pillar, just like Sodom and Gomorrah was, man. Let me read this again. This is beautiful. Revelation 18:2. And that angel, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. That's going to be the future fate of Babylon the Great. A salt pillar, a desert, a burnt up kingdom, you know? Let's get, since we're getting on Esau a little bit and talking about burnt up kingdoms, let's get the classic Jeremiah 51 and 25. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain. And mountains goes into governments. And what's this man done? Destroyed the whole earth with his philosophies, with GMOs, you know. Also, he's defiling the food, you know, putting certain chemicals and elements into the water, you know. He had plastic all in the oceans, you know. He's buying up all the farmland, killing livestock. You know, you have certain animals that are on the brink of extinction. A lot of animals have gone extinct. You have certain nations of people, you know, that are no more, in the form of the Tasmanian people. You know, he killed off a lot of Gadite tribes, you know, and the Gadites are the so-called Native Americans, conquering the land of Babylon the Great, you know. So Jeremiah 51 and 25, just to add, you know, edification on, you know, destroying mountain, destroying government. Jeremiah 51 and 25, behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, which destroyeth all the earth. And I will stretch out mine hand upon thee, and roll thee down from the rocks, and I will make thee a burnt mountain. A burnt mountain. That's what Babylon the Great is going to be, a burnt government at the hands of the Medes, you know, and the Moabites, and the Ishmaelites, and other Edomites who are going to hate the whore, Babylon the Great, who sitteth on many waters, you know. Revelation 17 and 16 to close on out. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And rightfully so, you know. And it's coming. We can see it. We can feel it. And call halal Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai the day it happens. So with that, I'd like to close on out. And in closing, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the head apostles of Great Millstone, who do rule well and teach well with sound doctrine. Shalom to the elders and the elder bishops of Great Millstone as well. Peace, love, salutations, and blessings to all the sincere Akim and Akwat who do subscribe to this truth. A hearty shalom to the men out there on the highways and byways, highways and hedges, preaching and teaching in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and risking their freedom, now more so than ever, especially in these times of what's going on, making their bodies a living sacrifice out there on the highways and byways, highways and hedges with the testimony of our Lord Yahweh Shai, which is the spirit of prophecy, which allows men to go into the scriptures and bring out understanding on a high level. And last but not least, a hearty shalom to the Men of Valor Camp, New Jersey, NYC, South Carolina, DTA Camp, Philly, Baltimore, Jersey, NYC. First camp I ever heard the truth from, Isaiah 62, verses 6 through 7. Those that make mention of the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, keep not silence. Give him no rest day or night. To Jerusalem is a praise in the earth. So once again, Lord's will, you found this lesson edifying. And until next time, Lord's will, shalom. DTA, Abba Ball. Soon. Shalom.